Hey, what's going on, guys? Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me. Can you guys hear me? Let me know in the chat. All right, perfect. All right, so if you guys aren't tracking, every Wednesdays I go live on the War Room podcast, right? So every Wednesday, myself, Jake Swade, along with Aaron, Ben Pappas, we all go live on the War Room channel, and then people get access to me over there, right? All the time, just like we're talking right now. But I noticed that like a lot of guys from the Green Beret Chronicles YouTube channel wasn't getting that, right? So what I did was I also linked my Green Beret Chronicles channel on here. So we have two separate audiences. We have the War Room audience, and then we also have the Green Beret Chronicle audience also. It's my way of exposing both platforms to what me and the guys are trying to do. And if you guys aren't tracking, guys, it's like I said, I'm a Green Beret. Aaron is a PJ. Jake is a Navy SEAL. And Ben is a MORSOC Lieutenant Colonel. Right. So the intent is to get on here and go over military type news and give you guys feedback from all of our different perspectives, right? And then once that's done, we'll joke around, we'll bullshit with each other. That's why that's how it's supposed to be, right? So we're out here essentially making fun of each other and just breaking bread, right? Like we're showing what the young generation, what working together and collaborating, especially within special operation, looks like, right? So that's the intent behind the War Room podcast, right? So every Wednesday from here on out, we're just gonna do lives with both platforms, right? We're just gonna have the War Room podcast and also the Green Beret Chronicle podcast. I'm a bully Jake into getting his YouTube channel linked on here so we can go live on his channel also, because I want everybody to be aware, right? Because some of the shit that we discuss in the War Room podcast, it's important information that I think benefits everyone, to include dudes that are currently serving, dudes that are retired, mothers, fathers, like it benefits everybody, right? So whatever we can do on our end to impose wisdom on the next generation, then that's what we'll do, right? We'll cover everything from just regular military stories. We'll cover um, self development. We'll cover parenting. We'll cover finances. Like we cover a variety of things. And yes, you're correct. Jake does go live at 7, so immediately after he's done here, he rushes over to his channel and he goes live there, right? But one thing I don't do on my channel is go live enough. So however I can help, that's what I'll do, right? But in the meantime, as we wait for the fellas to trickle in, if you guys have any questions for me, fire them off in the comments, right? So I can start answering questions for you guys, especially my crowd coming over from Green Beret Chronicles. I think I saw a couple already. All right, so we got a question here about drinking. Hey Jay, I watched your video about vices. Right now, the only vice I have is drinking. Should I keep drinking? Should I quit drinking? It all depends. Because again, you do anything in moderation, like that's fine, right? But it's when you go overboard, that's when it becomes a problem. So if you're having a couple of drinks here and there just to, take the edge off, then that's completely fine. But if you're crushing, 5 to 10 beers a day just to get through life, then you might want to reconsider your choices, right? Like that's how I like to look at vices. Um, so yeah, I would, just do some reflection or some reflecting and just see like how it's affecting your day to day, how it's affecting your family, how it's affecting your kids, and then just see, is it really freaking worth it? And if all the answers to those are negative, then maybe you should hang it up, right? All right, let's see what else we got. All right, what's your opinion on the new SFPT handbook that Swig just put out? I honestly haven't seen it. I know they had an old one that covers a variety of things to help candidates get ready. If you want to send that to me through email, I'll take a look at it and I'll give you my feedback. Other than that, I honestly haven't seen it at all, right? All right, then we have any advice on healthy knees while rucking. All right, so one of the things that I did whenever I was rucking or preparing for selection, even while I was at group and doing all those strenuous activities, I would always prepare my lower body prior to doing, rucks or even long distance runs, right? Like I would wrap my knees, I would tape my feet, like I would do a lot of preparation before doing those activities because there's really no other way to safeguard your knees, right? Like you can take multivitamins, you can drink a shit ton of water and just make sure your overall body is healthy, but constantly pounding your knees with heavy weight, like the human body wasn't, designed to take that on, right? So just know that at the end of the day, your knees are going to get fucked up, and whatever you can as far as preventative maintenance to lighten the load, then that's what you should do. But at the end of the day, that shit's gonna suck, and it is what it is, right? Um, Aaron, can you hear me all right? Or am I fucking still low?
I can. No, you're good, man. You sound great.
Yeah, I can't hear you at all on my end.
Okay. How about
Oh,
now?
I can hear you now. I can
How
hear you
about
now.
now? All
All
right.
right.
Nice. What's up, Doc?
Whole lot of nothing. So I got my channel linked into the live stream also. So we have
Gorgeous.
the War Room at 11, then my channel also, and then the plan is to hopefully get Jake on this motherfucker too,
Yeah, let's
um,
go.
to try to get the word out on this thing. But how was your weekend, man? Staying busy?
Man, it's good. Busy is an understatement. So we have the puppy. So brand new Connie Corso running around the house. So she's doing great, but she's a puppy, so she takes a ton of input. And I still apparently I still have to take care of this toddler as well. I got like a 6 month old that I'm still required to take care of, even though I have a new dog. I don't think that's very cool, but
Yeah,
it is what it is. So here we are. No, everything's awesome, man. To be honest with you, everything's doing great. How about you? What'd you guys get into this weekend?
dude. My wife is out of town, so I got both of the kids. And
Oh,
I tell
nice.
you what, it's a brand new found appreciation for her and what she does because I'm like, oh man.
I know. I know.
So I literally put them down and I'm like, hey, go to you guys' rooms, go to bed. I'll do daddy time once I'm done. I got to start this live to make sure that the crowd gets built up before we go live.
Right.
But that's it, man. I've just been running daddy daycare and just fucking staying busy
I love me a
for the
good
most
daddy
part.
daycare. Love me
Oh
a
yeah.
good daddy daycare. Get it, man. I was making a joke with my wife yesterday. I was just like, we got done. She had maternity leave, so she's kind of back at work. She works from home, but she works for Meta, so she's extremely busy. But it was funny because she got done with yesterday. We were kind of like reconnecting and stuff, and I was just like, yeah, hardest job in the world, stay at home parent. It was just me
Yeah.
all day, like, I'm hardest job in the world. She started laughing. She was like, if you say that to anybody, they're gonna they're gonna yell at you. Like the moms, the dependas are gonna come after you. And I was like, I'm here for it. Like essentially, it's me, man. You know what I mean?
But it's the reality of it though. It's
Yeah, I
it's
know.
it's it's not an easy job at all. How's my camera on your end? Is it like, because I watched like the last episode, I'm like, man, that shit was grainy as fuck.
You look good now. You look clear as shit.
Dude, I think what it
Woo,
is
baby.
Ben coming in hot. What's up, Ben?
I think as soon as the rest of the crew comes in, my shit gets all distorted. But what's up, Ben? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, man? I'm good. How are you, Jay?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I was telling Aaron, so I have both YouTube channels up. So I got my YouTube channel link, and then I also have the War Room podcast link. So we have
cool.
2 YouTube channels. Hopefully that'll.
Fantastic.
I'm trying to get Jake to link his up also, so we can have a trifecta going and just.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All live at the same time.
Yeah, just giving it to everybody from all ends. You know what I mean? So.
Nice.
But you can't. It's too early in the podcast to say that. Like, yeah, it's not how. I know we're a minute before going like live to the big world, but you can't. Come on, man, you can't do that.
I tell you what. Let me get my mic hooked up. Yeah. Yeah.
We're live. Yeah. What's up, everybody?
Amazing.
Hey, I'm gonna get my mic hooked up, Aaron.
Okay, get it. What's up, Ben? How are you, brother?
Good, brother. How are you doing?
Man, I have never been better. I couldn't be. I'll tell you what. If I was any better, they'd have to tax me extra for it. You know what I mean? Things are going good. What'd you get into this weekend? Oh, they're going to.
Not a lot, man. I'm still out in LA here, and I'm just hanging out and getting things done, seeing my family, some family out here. So it's good.
Nice.
My sons are out this way, so
heck yeah,
always a fun time. But yeah, weather's been really good. We've been blessed with great weather. No gray, no marine layer, or anything like that. So that's good.
Man, we went out to so we had a little vacation. So I was just telling Jay, but got the new puppy in the house. We knew that the puppy was going to take up a bunch of time, and it was going to
right.
Classic stuff you got when you get a new dog, right? Like you're not going to be able to go anywhere and travel or do any of that stuff. So we took a trip out to Southern California. We hit Newport with some friends. Cool. It was awesome, really good. But we were same thing, just absolutely hit the weather lottery. Like a little bit gray in the morning, burned off right away, and here we go.
Fantastic,
perfect. Yeah, by 11 o'clock every day.
What's up, Jake?
Look at this dude. Look at this dude.
What is up?
Looking good, sounding good, just exciting. Look at that. Man.
All right, but I got to upgrade.
Hours.
Oh, my goodness.
Hours.
Oh, man. I love it. Just all I saw was the group chat, and all it said was, Jake, hey, pray for me. Say a prayer. And I was like, oh, man. Jake gets into wild shit, so I never know what's going on. I'm like, what could possibly be wrong? Right? Yeah, right.
Wait, did I not put the pictures in there of all the thousands of wires?
Oh, yeah,
you did. That's why. Okay. Yeah, it's like I was like, what the heck? You guys should see. We'll throw a behind the scenes. You know what? Let me just throw this up here. We're gonna do this.
Hey, that's looking smooth though, man. The whole setup.
It is, yeah.
I mean, shoot, we're talking about $3,000, so it better look halfway decent.
Damn,
I love it. I love it.
Now the worst part, Ben, is so I forgot that my dude Mark Williamson, shout out Mark Williamson, selling BMWs in Kansas City, was a total camera guy. Okay, I forgot. This dude got a monitor up there. He got this ATM Mini Pro. He got all this stuff. Last night I had to go to Dumb Central and just get the thing that made the Suge mic plug right into the computer and allowed the camera to plug right into the computer, and now we got it all to work. So
now we're all good.
Like $1,500 worth of stuff that I'm gonna send back.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, you're good.
Yes, sir. Yep. Great.
I'm just gonna share so everybody. Let me just.
You guys can hear me or no?
Yes, you're good. Let me just share a little pic. We're gonna see what's the behind the scenes here. So if you guys have ever seen a setup like I'm going to take a look. I'll take a picture of my setup too, and we'll just kind of compare and contrast here. Now, I will give it to Jake. This is day one, so it's day one of his setup. But you can see here, it ain't all pretty, everybody. Like, we got lights over here. We got cords everywhere, power solutions. Everything's going crazy. But you look good. You sound good. It's all I care about.
Yeah, I like the background's good too. Yes, sir. Nice.
We in the new studio. We in the pool house studio that got painted this weekend completely black.
Fantastic.
Shoot.
Skull and Bone Times in the SKU, like freaking Royce the 5'9".
Sound really. Does he sound low to anybody else, or is it just me?
His gain's low, but he sounds good as heck. It's gonna come out beautifully. I bet it sounds great over on the channel.
Do I need to make it louder?
No, you sound good. I wouldn't screw
it. Looks good though. I like it.
Yeah.
I have no idea if I could fix it anyway, so I'm just not touching anything, to be honest with you.
Nice, fantastic. Yeah, if I hit anything, I'm gonna screw everything up. So I'm gonna take a little behind the scenes photo of my setup as well. We'll see. We'll do a little compare and contrast.
Aaron, I should send you a picture of the plastic
But,
bucket with a piece of cardboard I'm sitting on.
Are you serious? That's fantastic.
It's hilarious.
But Jake, what I was telling Aaron and Ben is, so I was able to get both channels linked. So I got my channel and then also our regulars also on the live stream also. So there'll be a mixture of questions probably coming up in the chat.
So,
but
so are
way,
we live streaming over yours and
a lot of guys are like,
the War Room?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. I love we just get on. Like we pop in here. Jay's already answering questions. We got 46 people in the chat. We're like, oh, what's up, everybody? We're just figuring it out on the fly. Hilarious.
It's awesome.
I love how you.
We do need to send out the public service announcement. 50% of our viewers are middle-aged women, and Ben Pappas is the reason. I don't want any of the other three of us to think that we had anything to do with that. Shout out to Ben
I know
Pappas.
better.
Thank you.
I know better. Let's go. So let's compare and contrast while we're getting ready to go and getting ready to start this bad boy because Jay's loading it up as we speak. But let's go, and I'm just going to share my screen. We're going to go ahead and check and see, what's it look like, Aaron Love behind the scenes. This is pretty much it. That's pretty much it right there.
Smooth. That's pretty smooth. I'm not going to lie.
There's a desk over here. That's actually,
That's
a fully functioning desk. This is, you see now, like I don't have enough money to put the soundproofing in all the way behind me on the wall here, right? Like I'm still doing it like just in my little corner over here, but hey, that's what it is. That's a little behind the scenes action for you.
And you what kind of camera you're rolling with there?
I've got the Canon EOS.
Okay, you just have that hooked up right in your computer?
I do, yeah. It functions as webcam. It's gorgeous. It's fantastic. Good quality too. It's really, really good.
Looks like it. Definitely.
Yeah,
right.
you can see exactly how ugly I am in stunning 8K. Win, lose, it's end.
Yeah, so while I'm getting us going on social media, as far as all the live platforms, Aaron, if you don't mind doing the intro and then rolling right into any political updates you might have. In the meantime, I'm gonna get us loaded up on all the different social media platforms.
Heck yeah. So what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the War Room. We're live across all platforms right now. We're over on my Instagram account at Aaron Loves America. Over on X, we're live on the War Room YouTube channel. We're also live on Jay's Green Beret Chronicles. Here we are with the man, the myth, the legend, Clark Kent, Superman himself, Ben Pappas. Ben, how are you doing today, brother?
I'm doing great. I was just starting to scroll through the chat a little bit, seeing what we got going on over there.
Oh, it's
I'm doing
spicy.
great.
It is spicy up in here. Jake, we're getting a little feedback from the chat that you're a little bit low. Maybe that gain needs to come up an inch or two. But the man, the myth, the legend, the Navy SEAL, the officer, the Black Jew himself, I figure I'd get it out of the way before you did. Jake, what is going on, brother?
Hey, man, I wish I could tell you how to fix the gain, but I have no idea how to do it.
It sounds good enough. It's going to be, you know what, we'll troubleshoot it afterwards. It sounds great. It sounds great. So there we go. You guys need to start Cash Apps so we can donate. Listen, never news retort. I agree. You can give me whatever money that it is that you want. Jay needs it the most because he's a single dad right now. I'm going to start a GoFundMe just so I can get Jay Dorlius a little bit of sleep. But he's our Army guy, so he's the guy that's out here working, got to own the space. And me, as always, Aaron, former action guy. That's an FAG for those of you that are paying attention at home. I wear that title proudly because it's apparently not an insult anymore. We can just say it all the time. So welcome back, everybody. It's the War Room, and here we are. Jay, what we got this week? Oh, I'll start off with political stuff this week. Hey, guys, I got a question for you. Jake, I got a question. Let's say your whole family, let's say you're running for office, and your whole entire family, literally every single person that has known you for your entire adult life, let's say that they come out and they go ahead and they endorse the people that you're running against. Is that a stunning endorsement or is that a bad endorsement?
So I'm just going to say this. I have one friend who doesn't have any friends at all. He has three brothers.
Right.
And his three brothers don't talk to him. He has no friends. That is classified as a very bad person.
That would be classified as a very bad person, a very bad human indeed. I'm going to screen share a little something with you guys here in a second. I'm going to show you how the entire Walls family came out and they stood underneath a Trump 2024 flag wearing shirts that says Walls is for Trump, which is kind of a weird thing. Now, I've been saying to you guys for weeks now, it's been about 35 days, that Tim Walz is really one of the worst people on the face of the planet. So he's further left than anybody that we've ever seen go through any sort of political election process in the history of America. His policies are just absolutely ridiculous. It was really, really hard for Kamala, and I'm going to pronounce her name incorrectly the entire time so that somebody calls me racist. So Kamala, she was the most unpopular vice president that we've ever had in history, and she was looking to beat that record, and that's why she got Tim Walz to run as her running mate. Tim Walz was at a state fair serving ice cream the other day, and somebody asked about his opinion on the 6 hostages, one of them being an Israeli-American hostage that was just murdered in Gaza. It was actually in Rafah, where Joe Biden and the Biden-Harris administration has been telling Israel not to look for them for a long time. They were just murdered, and when asked about this, Tim Walz said, "Bye, see you later, everybody. See ya. See you later." This guy that spent 24 years in the military, I spent more time deployed than he actually spent in a uniform because he was a National Guard artilleryman that didn't spend a whole lot of time on active duty. So he retired as an E8. I retired as an E8. I spent all of my time deployed. He spent all of his time lying about his service commitments. And here is the answer that I would have given if I was, say, in the political sphere and I was a vice presidential candidate that gets hit with a gotcha question from a reporter. I'd say, hey, the killing of American hostages is never wrong, and Hamas is a terrorist organization that should be eradicated from the face of the planet. If you elect us on day one, we're going to make sure that these things don't happen on the American stage anymore because we have a policy for geopolitical relations and international geopolicy that is going to be something better than you guys have seen before. Now, I just did that. I'm not in politics. I just managed to magic that up with no prep. But that's what Tim Walz answered. He's like, "Bye, see ya," the reporter asked. And they got absolutely hammered. On the other side of the fence, Donald Trump is going out there, a couple of missteps on IVF and some of the things that he said, but he went on with Lex Friedman very recently. That interview just posted. Amazing long-form conversation where Trump talked about a lot of things, from legalization of marijuana across the states to his feelings on abortion and a lot of his other policy, which he has out there for everybody to see on his website. No policy to speak of over on the Harris Walls website. I would give you that information to be fair and balanced. However, it just doesn't exist. They don't have any policy out there. There are some conspiracy theories as to why the policies aren't getting put out there, and it's because they basically want to just try to ride this wave. Remember last week when I said this was as high as Kamala Harris was ever going to go? Well, that's true. The national polling average, it just came out today. It is a dead heat across the country. That is a nightmare for Democrats, an absolute nightmare, because their goal here was to pad after the DNC. There was supposed to be this huge bump. There was supposed to be this huge bump in the polls for Kamala Harris and Tim Walz, and we were supposed to be frightened over the possibility that Donald Trump was just going to get routed and it was going to be this blue wave. That is not the case at all. There, a dead heat it is a statistical coin flip. Here in Nevada, it's within the tolerance, basically the tolerance of failure for the polls that they have here. So Nevada, which has been a blue state for a long time, it is becoming purple in the last couple of years. I'll tell you what, it's a like other battleground states. Trump is leading in Pennsylvania right now, causing Kamala Harris to put a ton of money into socials and into the campaign. Here's the problem. They don't have any policy. They don't have anything to talk about. So as the American public has to orient to the Walz-Harris campaign, Harris keeps going, well, on the first day in office, I'm going to fix inflation. Well, you were the deciding vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, would cause 40-year highs in inflation. Inflation has never been higher than it is today. It's not slowing down at a rate that the federal government is supposed to see. We're supposed to be about a 2% month-on-month inflationary rate. We're up above 3 as it stands right now, and that's down from as high as 9 that has been happening during the Harris-Biden administration. And remember, it's the Biden-Harris administration. Joe Biden took a 16-day vacation. He apparently was working as hard as he could to save this American hostage that was mutilated before he was shot in the back of the head. But hey, it's really hard to do that when you're on the beach and you don't have good cell phone coverage and you have to take a nap in the middle of the day because your wet nurse decided that your dementia-ridden oatmeal brain self shouldn't be in charge of the nuclear code. So they put you to bed a little bit early. But Joe Biden's taken about 42% of his entire presidency. He's taken about 42% vacation days. So this is right on, with basically what he's been doing this entire time. I don't know who's running the country. I don't know of a clear way forward from the left side of the fence. Everybody, it's boiled down to two basic choices right now. You have no idea what the left is doing, and you know that they have caused all the problems in the last 4 years, over 1,300 days in office for Kamala Harris right now. And then everybody hates Trump. So that's pretty much it. That's your political update. It's just, things move at such a speed now. That was just the updates that happened kind of like the last 2 or 3 days. This whole thing has been a slow motion train wreck. And as we see more of Kamala's policies come out, she's got a real problem on her hands. And this is the thing that I want you to look for in this next coming week. We'll talk about it next week. I want you to look for how Kamala Harris is going to end up distancing herself from Joe Biden, because all of her policies are cookie cutter. The 25% unrealized capital gains tax, the 28% tax on business tax here inside of the United States. All of these things are a wash, rinse, repeat. $25,000 given directly to homeowners when they purchase a new home. I am a homeowner. You know what I'm going to do if I know the government is giving $25,000 to buyers? I'm going to increase my price by $25,000. That is what I'm going to do. Home prices are going to be way more. So when you talk about, price gouging and price fixing and all this other nonsense that's happening right now, as opposed to letting the free markets do what the free markets do, Kamala Harris's policies are all exactly the same, and they're wildly unpopular. So as we get over the joy, as we get over the DNC, which was, again, just a Holly weird production of people. They lied and told people that Beyonce was coming so that they could pack the house for the last day. That's a real thing that happened. I want you to look at the policies, and I want you to look at the polling. This polling is hyper inflated for a number of reasons. Number one, because the media arm of the DNC, which we know is the mainstream media, has been doing a yeoman's job to try to get out in front of everybody to let them know that Kamala Harris is now, she was terrible, right? She was the worst vice president that we have ever had. But now she's the best thing since sliced bread, and everybody wants you to know it. She's bringing the joy back to America, and she's going to lead us through all these problems that she created and she's unable to fix. Watch as the polling starts to reflect where America is. Because I'll tell you what, straw polls are, famously this week, Mark Cuban put out a poll on Twitter. And the question was, do you want your children to grow up with the personality attributes of Donald Trump or Kamala Harris? And it was like 72% for Donald Trump. He got absolutely, just railroaded on his own poll, which is absolutely hilarious. But for the political stuff, pay attention this week as Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are forced to lay out their actual policy, right? They can no longer just be like, oh, look how good we are. We're doing so great. Look at all these stars. We have this big convention coming up. As they have to talk about what they're going to do to fix the problems in this country, their polling is going to, especially in the swing states, is going to take a hit. Right now, it's a coin flip across the nation. Trump winning in Pennsylvania, Trump dead heat in Nevada, Trump dead heat in Michigan. There are a lot of things that are going on, to include the RFK Jr. pickup, that are really starting to sway rank and file Americans, and the Democratic National Party is just absolutely panicking. So there you go. That's all I got.
Well,
did anybody
really
see
good,
the chat?
We appreciate it. Now, staying on that topic, guys. So,
Jay,
so
did
yeah,
you see the chat?
I can see the chat.
Okay. I just want somebody to know that
Yes.
Sugar came to see me. I don't know how that's possible. I know I was waiting for somebody to say it, but it didn't happen fast enough. I beat Ben Pappas one time. I praise the Lord. Hey, I had another question, real quick. Aaron, is a wet nurse? Isn't that the nurse that nurses the baby?
It is, yeah.
I just wanted to say that.
It's like
thinking about that.
Yeah. I mean, at this point, the guy probably needs breastfed. Like, he's got oatmeal for brains. I just don't understand. Like, watching the fact that we have the president of the United States of America is not in charge of the United States of America. He takes 16 days worth of vacation. His VP is out on. She's not handling policy prescriptions. They're doing like the best that they could do to commemorate the 13 fallen service members at Arlington. Was sent out a couple tweets. They were both invited. Neither one of them showed up. It was their problem, by the way. Trump, I will say, it's one of the best trolling maneuvers of all time. So Trump goes to Arlington, of course. Harris, Walz, and Biden all start, and the left starts freaking out. Oh, it's a photo op. Immediately, the Trump campaign posted 8 of the 13 service members, their families, saying that they asked Joe Biden and Kamala Harris to come to Arlington, and they haven't heard from him in 3 years. They still haven't talked to the president. The president still has not made contact with Gold Star families that lost their lives in the botched retreat from Afghanistan that Biden and Harris oversaw. This is their problem. And then they tried to say that Trump was using them for a photo op, and Trump had it in the can already ready to go. Like, oh, well, here's their family. They asked me to come. So in your face. But it's frightening right now to even think about who is running this country, because it's obviously not Joe Biden and it's obviously not Kamala Harris. So what are we doing here?
I don't know what we're doing. That's a good question. Jay, what are we doing?
All right, yeah. So this will take us into our first story, right? So again, staying along the lines of the hostages. So the article reports that the bodies of the 6 hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th were found in a tunnel in Rafah, Gaza, after being murdered just days before their discovery. The hostages include Israeli-American Hash Goldberg Palin, were executed shortly before troops arrived to the area. The deaths have triggered protests from the family demanding stronger efforts should have been made to release their loved ones. Right. The Israeli Defense Force are conducting an investigation while U.S. President Joe Biden and Israeli officials express outrage over the killing. So, based on this article that came out about the hostages, how do you guys think Israel is going to react to this? Do you guys think it's going to push them to become more aggressive than they are now, or do you guys see this as, hey, maybe this is going to wind down and this war will go away, or is this just a means for Israel to go real dark and just level the entire area?
Take this one.
Yeah, go for it.
I mean, at this point, Jay, let's be honest. Israel can't go any darker. So the fact that Hamas killed 7 hostages, like, what'd you expect? You just leveled Gaza. Like, go look at the pictures. They leveled, 2 miles by 10 miles. They leveled the whole thing. So to me, like, the fact that they killed these 7 hostages, and it's coming out now that they had direct orders that if the troops got close to kill the hostages, of course they did. Yes, that's what happens when you level half of the country and you don't want any peace. And now you're in the West Bank, leveling the West Bank, and you're sending missiles all over the place. Like, until someone reels them in and says, hey, man, listen, and the country's doing it. Their country's pissed off now, right? Like, Netanyahu, let's not forget, Netanyahu was on the edge of getting canned 3 or 4 times in the last 5 years. So I'm just going to say this. I mean, it doesn't move the meter that they killed 7 people. I'm sorry. I'm just going to say it. Like, they're at war right now. It's a grimy, dirty place. We've covered it 3 or 4 times. Like, it's a train wreck right now. There is no great outcome from a train wreck.
What's your opinion on the fact that one of the hostages was an American, though? So one of the guys that they shot was an American, a dual citizen, right? So he's an American. We have American citizens that are dying over here. And what's your opinion of the response from, let's say, America?
Yeah, I mean, the response from America, what are we going to do? Go in there and drop some more bombs? All the bombs they're dropping already are ours anyway. So it's just the fact that our cannons aren't sending them, right?
Well, how about
over there doing?
I mean, let's widen up the optic. Why aren't we sanctioning Iran? Right? Iran is the sponsor of Hamas and Hezbollah, right? So why are we not sanctioning Iran then? If we know that these people killed Americans, and that's a true story, right? Guy that just got killed, one of the 6, is a dual citizen. Why are we not sanctioning Iran into the dark ages? Why are we not cyber attacking Iran's infrastructure? Why are we not turning all of the lights out in Iran from now until the end of time? Why are those not options that we're talking about? And then a second follow-on option. So, I mean, I guess I'll kind of ask that question rhetorically, is where is the American response? Because there is none. But the question I'd like to explore with you is, so what's the off-ramp here? Okay, so Hamas, terrorist organization, terrible people, they killed hostages. That's what they do. We shouldn't be negotiating with them anyway, and we sure shouldn't be negotiating on behalf of Hamas to Israel, because that's what we've been doing. But where's the off-ramp? Okay, so Hamas has now killed an American hostage. Where is the off-ramp here? Israel has leveled Gaza. Hamas has killed an American hostage. I don't necessarily agree with your take here, Jake, but I'm willing to play it out just for the sake of argument. So where's the off-ramp? So they killed our hostage? Yeah, of course. Yeah, they leveled Gaza, to say what you said. Okay, so where's the off-ramp? Where's the negotiated settlement? Is this war just going to go on forever, and we're just going to keep killing each other, or what? Is it a war of attrition, or what do we do?
I'm just going to say this. As long as everybody in the world looks at America like we're a bunch of clowns in clown suits, Biden and Harris, that's what you get. When people assume that you're weak and that you're not going to do nothing, they take advantage. Why do you think Russia, took Ukraine? Because they looked at us and said, these clowns ain't doing nothing. Plain and simple. We are in a very weak posture right now, and it is what it is. Like, this is what happens when you have weak presidencies in a weak country.
I just think the only thing I would say is that I think the broader,
I agree 100%.
I think your calculus you have to have on this, like you're saying, for what needs to be done is what are our interests there? What is the core vital interest? What's the interest? And the resources that we're going to have to expend in order to protect those interests, advance them, secure them. And so that's the biggest thing is really, you have to make some cold calculations too and say, okay, so if we go in there and do this, what is the net gain? What's the overall gain for the United States in terms of its interests for doing X, Y, or Z? And I think that's the biggest thing. And so either way, no matter what, that has to be the lead, is you have to put your interests first. And if that soft power interest of, perception and influence around the world, if that needs to be enforced, well, that's one thing. If you have hard, cold, realpolitik, balance of power things going on, that usually takes precedence because you're getting towards, national survival, national prosperity, like major leading interests of the country. So I just think that always has to take place. As much as we want to get whipped into a frenzy and get upset, which is important. It's very important because that's the will of the people. And if the people, that's what they want, then you've got to take a look at that. But again, balancing that with cold, hard interests of the United States. Like if we get entangled into something that we didn't think would happen, because you get entangled in overseas engagements, things like that, it can drain you. And meanwhile, something else blows up. Let's say Russia advances, they do it, something else happens, X, Y, and Z. We can name a lot of scenarios, right? And then we're tied up with resources over in that particular theater. I think that's problematic. But again, interests have to take, look at the interests. What are the interests?
Yeah, I agree. And just real quick, Opaka 512, I really appreciate your other optic to the chat. You're doing a really good job. Quick fact check. Trump didn't retreat from Afghanistan. That happened in August of 2021. President Biden and Vice President Harris are in charge of the military. So let's not be intellectually dishonest. I know what you're saying here, that Trump negotiated an exit strategy with Afghanistan and the Taliban. That was not put into place and it wasn't done on his watch. So let's be careful. Words have meanings. Moving on. Jay, over to you.
All right, guys. So we'll transition out of this topic. This one's for all you guys. I heard this question on a podcast that I was listening to, and it's a pretty interesting question. So I'll ask you guys to see if there's any different takes on this. What dead mentor has influenced you the most, or is still influencing you beyond the grave? I know for me, it would be like Jim Rome is a big influence on me, because I literally, I get up and I listen to him on my way to the gym, because I had a lot of work to do when it came to self-improvement and not letting shit get to me, especially after retiring from the military. So even though he's done, I listened to him religiously, and then I got into Stoicism with Seneca and Marcus Aurelius. So those would be mine. But as it relates to you guys, it doesn't necessarily have to remain in Stoic realm. But as far as generals, anybody that has influences you guys' lives beyond the grave.
I'll jump in here. So Jay, you're a little bit laggy, so you just got to turn it over to somebody and let us know. Go ahead, Jay.
I was waiting there, and you got to give it to somebody. Go ahead, Aaron. I'll follow you.
I got you. So, I'm going to start with the local close one, man. I was really close to my grandma Kilroy. She taught me more about life than, anybody. And it's crazy to be a woman that was my mentor as I grew up. But I spent almost every day of my life with that woman until unfortunately she passed away in 2012. Even as I was in the military, I think I talked to her every single Sunday of my life, even as my adult life. And that was, through losing myself and problems with addiction and getting in the military and deploying and all this other stuff too. So I had to give credit, Grandma Kilroy, probably number one. There's a couple people out there that are now, they taught me, and I don't necessarily agree with their worldview, right? Like Christopher Hitchens was one of the most remarkable and one of the most notable atheists. He started the real atheist movement. There was 5 or 6 of them. Sam Harris was there, a couple others. But Chris Hitchens, even though I disagreed essentially with his position, because I'm not an atheist by any sense, I do like the way that he took in information and the way that he logically dissected a number of really, really complex topics to a way that was really easy to understand for some idiot like me that was going through his own spiritual journey when I was made aware of who Chris Hitchens was. His work on the religion of Islam and his deep dives into some of the other culture stuff that we have, I found his insights invaluable. And again, I didn't necessarily agree with him. I've read almost every book that he's ever put out, and there were some books that I put it down. And I was like, that was a miss. However, I do like the way that he went about information analyzation and taking it out. And then one more, and I'll keep it to American history because the Stoics are great. Dan Holloway over at Citizen Pod has a great quote about the Stoics. He was like, nobody should ever forget the Stoics. The fact that we've gone through this revolution where people are like, oh yeah, it turns out Seneca was a pretty smart dude. Oh, it turns out, yeah, you should work out. Marcus Aurelius, was pretty good at saying that we should, pursue our greatest form and stuff like that. So I will say that, but founding father Thomas Paine. So Thomas Paine is my favorite founding father. The things that he wrote and the things that he felt for America and freedom and individual rights and all of these other things. If you don't know the history of Thomas Paine and if you don't know who that man was as a founding father, you need to look into him because I'll tell you what, he was pretty much amazing. Everything that I feel about the Constitution, about the history of America, about where it is that we can go, the golden apple and the silver frame of the Constitution of the Bill of Rights. Those things are driven right from Thomas Paine. So I'll give a shout out to Thomas Paine as well. But I'd say those are two. My grandma, Thomas Paine, Christopher Hitchens. I don't know how you can get any more diverse than that, but I'll turn it over to you, Jake.
I appreciate it, Aaron. I'm just going to say this. Two-star General Brown wrote my letter of recommendation to West Point, African-American in my community. Had no idea until after he had passed how big of guy he was. He was the first black medical officer in the United States Army in 1953, first black commanding general of an Army hospital, first black commanding MASH unit general in combat. So, I wish I would have dug into him more. I did see him every time I went home. I got a lot of advice from him, but, until 2023, I didn't Google him. And there would have been so much more I could have asked him and gleaned from him. But shout out to Major General Brown, man, got me into West Point and the Naval Academy. I can't ask for anything more.
I'd say for me, my father passed away a number of years ago, and he was just a good dude, right? And so, nobody's perfect, but was definitely a calming force in my life. It's seen a lot as a young age. Grew up in war-torn Europe, actually through the war as well too. So he was a lot older, but used to hear some crazy stories from uniformed army, right? The Nazis, the Wehrmacht coming in to Greece and stomping and taking over villages. Gave a whole new meaning to counterinsurgency when I was doing it myself later, from their tactics to our tactics, from things my dad told me about. So he passed away in 2008, so definitely my dad. Then the first other person that popped into my mind, and Jake's very, very close with him, but Doug Zimbeck, I was just really thinking, instead of, obviously they're religious figures, things like that, but people actually knew. But Major Doug Zimbeck, no shit, American hero. People use that too lightly, but he really is one, passed away. But I can just remember, he was a wrestler, I was a football player, and we'd have, we'd go and eat together, stuff like that. And even later, when I was first coming to the Marine Corps, he was a year ahead of me, and he was already in Force Recon, already doing these things, and would just always grab me up and be like, this is the standard. We have to have the standard. The standard is win at all costs. Everything. This guy he's like Jake, never lost a wrestling match. I think he was All-American in college, all that stuff. And so I always had Doug kind of lighting that fire and that spark. And the day that I found out he was killed, and I know Jake, I don't want to go in this area, but I just came back from a combat tour and I was fucking devastated. I was just lost it, So
I'm gonna follow up on that real quick. So Major Doug Zimbeck died May 11th, 2007. I lost John Zinn, my swim buddy from Buds, May 11th, 2010. I'm gonna tell you, don't come around my house May 11th. I got a son named Zimbeck, and I'm gonna share one story so I don't start crying. But Ben talks about the standard. I'm gonna tell you, this dude's a living savage. Okay, he's dead now, but when he was alive, he was a savage. Okay, and not some random everyday Joe off the street. His dad was an HRT rescue sniper. Raised this dude as a savage. All right, and so the story I'm gonna tell. We were in Quantico at Marine Corps training right after freshman year. I had heard about this dude, Doug Zembeck, some bad wrestler. You know, I was like, yeah, whatever. So we're all lined up alphabetically, and he's right in front of me, right? I'm Swig, he's Zembeck, and I'm like, man, look at this little scrawny ass dude, man. Man, let me call this dude out. I said, hey, man, are you that wrestler dude? He said, yeah, I'm the wrestler. I said, man, you don't look very tough, man. Like you look like a fucking pussy, bro. He was like, what? What? He was like, just go over there right now. So we went over to the grass, and as soon as he grabbed me, I said, oh, this is a real dude, right?
Like, oh no,
and
right,
so I
yeah.
gave him a quick, I gave him a quick head shuck, and I said, hey, man, we good. He's like, what? No, we're fighting. I said, no, we don't need to fight. I said, I know you're a lion. We're good. And he just looked at me and was like, that's pretty cool. But I'm going to tell you, that dude was a savage. I was his wrestling partner for 2 years on and off. Like, just salted the earth, died the way he wanted to die. You know, shout out to his wife, Pam, and his daughter, Fallon. Like, man. So I just want to back Benny's up because that dude fired me one time because I wasn't running fast enough with him on my back.
Yeah, so those are my two people. I mean, obviously there are many historical figures. You know, what's been an influence in my life. Obviously, you know, religion's played a huge part in my upbringing, Christianity. But I've also been very eclectic and looked at a lot of other religions too, and trying to find common strains in humanity and things that I can learn, make me wiser as I make decisions throughout the world as a military leader. You know, previously as a commander. And so I think you know, keeping a wide aperture and hearing many voices is very important. You know, and like Jay was saying too, I mean, all the way to Jim Rohn, right, who's distilled so many of these topics and so many of these ideas and put them into practical use for today. You know, I think yeah, I mean, the founding fathers, and then if you look into probably political philosophy throughout history, right, from the Socrates, Aristotle, all the way to Hobbes to, you know, John Locke. And we go so on and so forth. The social contract we have today in democracy is really founded from a lot of these thinkers, and that, you know, is distilled down into the works in the Constitution. So, you know, I think all of those things very, very important. But the two that came to mind, obviously my dad and Doug Zembeck, from people I actually knew, and that was right off the top of my head. So,
Jay, what are you? I know you're working with a little bit of a lag, but Jay, what are your who are your mentors? Like who was that person that guided you? And then I'll hit the question from the chat.
Yeah, so for me, like my dad is still alive, mom is still alive, so all my heroes are still breathing, right? But for me, I would say the last 10 years or so, it's definitely been Jim Rohn. Because I think, at least for me, like we all went through, well, not we all, but I went through this phase of just running and gunning and doing shit in the military, thinking that it's never gonna end. And then it's like one day I woke up, I was 34, and it was like, oh man, like it's time for me to grow up. Like this military stuff is gonna end. Then what? So I had to go on this long journey of self-discovery, of figuring out like what I want to do once the military ends, and I didn't know where to begin. And for me, as cliche as it might be to some, for me it was like motivational speeches. Like I literally wake up every morning, and on my drive to the gym, I get on YouTube and I listen to Jim Rohn, right? Like that's how I prep my mind for the day. Like I listen to Jim Rohn, like I listen to like all the greats, and then just their words have really helped me shape my mind, not only for business, but also physical fitness, leadership, and so on. So for me, it was those dudes, but Jim Rohn was probably the number one guy for me.
Gotcha. Ben, get your face on. You ready?
Yes,
you
sir.
gotta give a commander answer here. So we got Mason in the chat, Mason Young in the chat. So question for Ben: thoughts on the Paramarines from World War II, and if the Marine Corps And could the Marine Corps use them today? That is the question. Could the Marine Corps use the Paramarines like they did in World War II today?
I think, with just jumping into it, thinking about Paramarines, I think really we're talking about just, airborne infantry and could they use them? Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think, insertion by, airborne is definitely something that is useful, a technique. But I will say this, if you ask anybody that's done jump operations in combat, right, combat jumps, is that if you have to jump in, they always say find another way. That's the answer. You have to jump in, find another way. This
Right.
just you can get 10% casualties on a unit from broken ankles, twisted knees, if you're doing a static line jump, right? A mass tack static line jump. Obviously, free fall, more control, or steerable shoots, a lot more control. The smoke jumper shoots, things like that, that a lot of the recon Marines use, or the squares, one or the other, right? Depending on what their qualifications are. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just maintaining the capability, and then when how much can you carry in on that jump? I think the one time for me that I was going in for a combat jump, we were going to get a high value target popped up, and we had good, solid, corroborating information coming in without burning sources about where this person was, and so there were two different task forces that were going after this person, and two different raid forces, right? And so we were one of them, and if they popped up in this place from certain techniques, then A would get them, then B would get them if they popped up in this other place. Okay, so it was at the very edge of the range of the helicopter assets we had, Black Hawk Squadron available, at the very edge of the range, and they were like, you'll have 4 minutes on target to do this. And so then we began preparing for to jump in, just because we'd have more legs, we could stay longer, we could do a clandestine insertion at the target site where we're going to infiltrate in by foot out of audible compromise range, make sure that we get in there and take care of business. But instead, the hard hit was authorized, so like we fucking stuck these helos, man, right? It was like literally, I remember this like clear as day. I'm on my nods and just like flipping the nods down, doors are open, like it's all I hear. I'm like, fuck, we crashed. I was like, oh shit, we're all like,
No,
and
you'll
they're
be
like,
fine.
all I hear in the headset is like, go, go, go. I'm like, oh shit. So, run out, unclipping and running out there, literally 4 minutes on target. But so give you an idea, this would be a good idea for that, right? I mean, airfield seizure, things like that. But again, if you have helicopters, you can do the helicopters, you carry so much more. You can carry machine guns with a tripod. Like you can carry a Mark 19. You could do all this. Like you can put like little vehicles on there. You're jumping in. It's really got to be for a reason, at least in my experience, what I know. And that was the one time I saw it where we were getting all masked up. We had barrel jumpers going in, everything going in for this. And we're like, this is insane. Let's just go. Let's just get this dude. Let's slam it. And so those heels just boom. And we ran off and did it and grabbed old boy, and everything was good. But I hope that answers the question. That's what I'm saying. I think that you have to have a real reason to drop someone. And now if there are no LZs, well, where are you going to land as a jumper? I mean, if I'm just trying to go through all the ideas. And you guys have anything on that? Like you think for, coming in by air on a mass tack versus, a squadron or something of helos dumping you in?
As the resident PJ, like I have to push the jump mission, right? Like that's what we all put. Like, I mean, Alaska had 2 jump missions last week, right? Like they had 4 dudes like jump out into the wilderness. Again, it's not a combat jump, right? And it's a little bit different context, but it's so sensitized to us. We're always like trying to, you get a bunch of PJs in a room, and they're like, it would be the opposite. We'd be like, oh no, there's tons of time. Yeah, the 60s can get there, no problem. They can get you there. We'll have overhead. It's all good. And literally, the PJ team leader would be like, I don't know, can we jump it though? Do you think that we could? Do you think we could free fall it? We could static line square it. Can we hey ho it? Can we just like jump in 10K offset or so? It's always tactical decision making, Met TC dependent. It's always, you're always going to have to weigh those risks. There's nothing scarier than, people talk about hey ho a lot. Like the insertion method that we use for air is really going to be hey ho. You get a bunch of offset. You can't hear the planes. It's a lot better for what it is that we do. However, you're also 10K away from your target. So if you have a guy that jumps out of that plane and then has some sort of malfunction and then has to fix it and loses 7,000 feet altitude or 5,000 feet altitude when they're trying to fix that malfunction, that's a nightmare. that is a nightmare scenario, because now you have, and it's happened to our teams before. You know, we've had multiple teams jump into multiple locations and had people that were geographically separated by land features, or that were separated by things that they were not supposed to be separated by. And I got to be honest with you, things can go poorly so bad, so quickly. And yes, it's sexy. And yes, it's cool. And yes, I always wanted to be the jump. I don't have a combat jump. Yes, I always wanted to be the jump master that pointed go and then followed the team out as they left to go on the cool, you know, free fall jump mission. But I'll tell you what, that stuff is super risky, super duper risky. And that's from a guy like our career field is very sensitized to jumping in and doing so. I mean, like, sometimes we do it just to get places. We're like, hey, we got to get to this boat. Okay, well, we can't land a C-130 on this boat. We're like, well, we can jump there though. I mean, we just tell them we're jumping. We'll just all land together on our own little boat, and then they can just drive a boat out and pick us up. And then that literally happens all the time. So, you know, even for a career field like us, that's really, really common practice for jump operations. And again, you know, Alaska is doing it 2 or 3 times a week at this point. Those guys are just jobbing out because they job out in Alaska. The 212 gets jump missions way more than anybody else, maybe the California dudes. But we have people that'll jump out to the ocean, jump out to, you know, recover to larger vehicles, all that stuff. And I will say, with all of that said, I would still probably take the 60s, even if I only had 4 or 5 minutes on target. I mean, it's just, there's so many things that can go wrong. Like, you really have to weigh that risk in. But, you know, helicopters crash as well. So there you go.
Well, yeah, I hope that answers the question. I mean, I think, you know, that's the Marine Corps', I think, larger take on it. I mean, you know, Army owns the Airborne mission all the way, and they have all the, you know, historical knowledge and the equipment and the best practices, everything there. And again, you know, Marine Corps has its special units with, you know, recon, force recon. Obviously, MARSOC has lots of jumpers as well too. But again, the larger, you know, force inserting, I mean, that's a big Army operation all the way. Thank you for the question.
I think on the Army side, we just need to get rid of that fucking Airborne mission. We're never going to, no commanders ever going to take that risk ever again. But whatever, you get your $150 a month. It is what it is.
Yeah.
But we're never going to use that. But
static, the static line round.
Here's a follow-up question for you guys, and I'm not trying to get, and I'm not trying to get anybody teary-eyes, but I'm really curious about this one. So, Ben, Jake, I'm not sure about you, but I'm just at that point in my life where my folks are getting older. So as you guys lost your hero or your father, like how did you guys get over that? And what impact did it have on you as a man, knowing that like your dad is gone and now you're the man or the head of the family, or now you got to be the one that everyone looks up to for guidance because he's removed? Like, how did you guys deal with that? I'm not saying my folks are going to croak any time now, but they're getting up there.
I mean, I think it's something that's like, you don't, I hate to say it, but you don't really ever get over fully. You know what I mean? It's just, and you do, like, you know, I move on. I always focus on all the good times. I focus on the things I've learned, the way, you know, my dad was to me, the presence that he was, and the things and the strengths that he had that, you know, I still need to work on, you know, personally, and the things that I admired about him. So, you know, but that always, there'll be something that I do and I accomplish. I'm like, man, I wish he was here to show him this. And I wish that, and then, but I always tell myself, well, he can see you now. It's good. You know, so you're, you know, I don't think people truly ever leave us. Right. You know, it's, their presence is within our hearts, first of all, but then, you know, all around us as well too. So, yeah, I mean, that's one thing for sure, but it does, all of a sudden you like, don't feel like you have a top cover anymore. You know what I mean? It's like you're now next up, you know, you're next up. And so I know, Jake, you know this, but it's just, there is that little bit of feeling sometimes, like you feel like, that not that it's a safety net, but like, just to me, it was like almost like, you know, you're next up, and there's you know, no one else between you and everything else in life. So, but, you know, I'd been pretty independent ever since I was young, and, you know, raised to be that as well too. So definitely was, you know, ready for whatever would come. But the hardest thing for me was that my dad, I was going away to combat tours, and, you know, and that's how it was. Like, you know, it's like all of a sudden a warp, right? You're gone, and you're just gone. You come back, you know, training, you're gone again. And then I got done with my last combat tour, and then I kind of came back and phased out of my unit. But then my dad died before I could see him. So that was a hard thing for me. You know, it was just, you know, that the way that went down. But I was very grateful to have him for the time I did, which, you know, you got to focus on what you have and the good in your life, not what you're missing so much.
Jay, I'm gonna say this, Jay. Like, I got a totally different take in a way. Um, like when my dad died, I kind of was happy, and I got raised by a savage. He was drunk all the time, and I hate to say this, but like, I'm the dude in the family that they started calling at like 14 years old because I had answers, and so I had money. And now at 52, I'm still the guy that everybody in the family is going to call. I'm not being conceited or arrogant. I'm just like, when people get in trouble, they're calling me to help. So I've kind of been carrying that burden for a long time. Like, I took over my grandma's finances when I was 18. Like, grandma had some money. I fired everybody and I took over her finances, right? Like, I'm gonna hold the family together, keep everything on the up and up. No more shenanigans, no more BS. But I will say this, I lost my mom last year. She had Alzheimer's real bad, so I really lost her, like, let's say 2019. Um, but like, my wife's father is out here. He's salt of the earth. He is the best dude in the world. Country, low Virginia, hard working, fixed tractors. And I'm like, man, he need to come out more. I told my wife he need to come out more. Like, he's 84. His family lives to like 95. So, but like, I saw him get off the plane today and I said, damn, that dude getting older. Right. And so we've got one grandparent left. And just like Ben, I'm fortunate that he's here today. We're going to work tomorrow, get some shelves hung up and do a bunch of stuff. I'm going to try to enjoy him as much as I can, glean any knowledge I can. The one thing I'm going to say that I'll tell everybody, I asked my mom all the hard questions for the last 3 years. When I knew Alzheimer's was coming, I asked her every hard question I wanted to answer to. And for the most part, I got a solid answer. Um, I got some answers I didn't want to hear. Like, I learned some stuff about my mom that I was like, oh my God. But now that she's passed, I don't have any yearning. And I'm going to give you one more. So my grandmother, um, was 87 when she passed, and she was like beating me senseless for leaving SpaghettiOs in the bottom of the can, right? Like, I grew up with my grandmother. And so I spent the last 5 years of her life going home every 3 months, and I would sit in her house and talk to her for 8 hours a day. And so when she passed, there wasn't anything I wanted to know. I didn't have any lingering questions, but I spent time with her and I asked the hard questions. So don't be afraid to go visit family members and ask hard questions, because that way when they pass, you'll have some semblance that, okay, I broke bread with them, and I feel good about, they're not going to be here forever. No one is. But, at 52, Jay, I know you a young buck. I'm going to tell you, at 52, you start looking at the other side and you like, I better live a good life right now.
My mom did give me some really good advice way back in the day, right? And I will say, from a personal standpoint, I mentioned my grandma Kilroy. I was really close to her. The amount of people that I have a huge family on that side of the family, like, we're all Irish Roman Catholic. I'm the oldest of 6. I think there's 19 grandkids for my grandma. By the time she passed, in 2012, I think she had like 15 great grandkids or something wacky. Like, her grandchildren just having kids everywhere. But you would be surprised. I was shocked. I didn't understand it. I spent a ton of time with her, so I didn't have those regrets. And I talked to her all the time. But, a ton of my cousins and even aunts and uncles and stuff, they came up to us and they'd be like, did you guys ever talk about me? Like, how, like, the regret that they had, that they didn't engage in that way, that they didn't have those hard conversations, that they didn't spend that time. Man, that broke my heart all over again. Just losing my grandma was tough enough. I mean, I love that woman. But, having to have those conversations weeks, months, days, years later with other people in the family, where they just wanted to know, like, what she was thinking. And they knew that I had that relationship with her. It was tough. And it's, to your point, Jake, it's a great example of why it is that you need to spend some time with those folks. So if you're out there listening and you're like, hey, how do I be a better person? Man, there is a reason why, Ben was talking about looking at other religions and other cultures and other ways, like, many inputs make a smart man, make a very wise man, right? there's a reason why in every single culture your elders are respected. There's a reason why you sit around with the old folks and you talk to them and you hear their stories and you spend time and you listen to them about their experience in their life. There's a reason why that through line exists in all of humanity, not just a specific culture or with a specific people. So if there's anything that I could say to you is don't be like those people in my family that have those questions. Don't, be the person that goes and spends time. Jake, I'm just glad we're here on the podcast with you. You could die at any moment, you old fuck. Like, I'm just glad to get as much input as I possibly can from you.
Get it now.
Yeah, get it now while it's hot. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, when I die, ain't nobody gonna say I took.
I think what I'm gonna end up doing.
Nobody. Like I'm burning.
I think what I'm gonna end up doing on my end at least.
Say, hey, he was going slow. Go ahead, Jay.
Yeah, I think what I'm gonna end up doing on my end, and I'm trying to convince my family members to do this, is I'm just gonna fucking podcast their ass. I'm just gonna interview them. And I just have it unlisted because I want my grandkids and my great grandkids to know who my mom and my dad were. Like they'll know us because we're gonna live on the internet for forever. But the person that made me who I am, it's saddened me that hey, my grandkids might not know who they were. So I'm like, you know what? Whenever they come down for Thanksgiving this year, yeah, podcast, mom and dad, we're doing it.
It's a good idea.
All right, folks, we'll transition into this next topic. Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it. Right. We'll hit this next topic. I know we're running a little late. It's almost 7. I know Jake has another live, so we'll hit this story, and then I want to ping Aaron about the Facebook Mark Zuckerberg coming out and saying that he was approached about censoring the citizen of this country. Right. So let's hit this one because I think this one we all can relate to, right? Supreme Court asks to rule if troops can sue over military healthcare mistakes, right? Because as it stands right now, I had a rotator cuff surgery, I had a meniscus repaired. Dude, I'm worse now than I was when I went in, right? That's just military care, and there's nothing I can do about it. Because Uncle Sam did it for free, and as a soldier, that's just the risk that I took. What do you guys' stance on this as far as if we as service members should be allowed to sue the military if they fuck us up? We'll start with you, Jake, and then we'll go around the circle.
So Jay, I'm gonna say this. I think this whole suing culture that we have in America is killing us to begin with, right? I'm down here in Texas with ambulance chasers. I think they should put a price tag on an American life, $1 million, and that's all you can get, okay? Now, if you got the pain and suffering dudes with no arms, think about somebody that got blew up in the IAD, and they're in a bed with no arms and legs, half their face burned off. Like, I don't care if we give them $100 million. Like, I just think, like, you're treading very deeply into an area where the lawsuits would be astronomical, and that's a part of doing the job.
Ben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thanks. I'm really excited about this question. No.
Yeah.
I'm just honestly, the things that Jake was describing, I was just having some flashbacks there, thinking about some people from my unit, and and I didn't take that angle initially from it. I was thinking like a botched surgery, like a botched rotator cuff. But what Jake's saying is then what? Part of the job is you're going into this. That is, it's deadly, it's lethal, it's dangerous, inherently dangerous. Some of the things we do are inherently, they're high risk operations, meaning that you will die unless you save yourself or you have some type of, device that will save you. So especially in special operations, or if you're a fighter pilot, something like that, right? So I think if they're going to do that, if they're going to allow it, I think that it needs to be, within certain realms of surgery, things like that. But if they open it up, then people are going to say, well, why not? What about the guy who got blown up by the IED? What about him? How does he miss out, on this whole thing you're doing now? So I think there are a lot of big questions that have to be answered and a lot of discussions. But maybe if it's just so outside of combat, straight up malpractice, I think there has to be some kind of a clause for that. If you're bringing in subpar doctors, that are coming to these hospitals as training environments and just jacking people up. I mean, I think they do have to have something that allows for it in some place. But yeah, I mean, there's so many other stories like Jake was saying about what about this then if that happens?
Yeah.
So that's a hard question. It's very, very hard.
Yeah.
But straight up medical malpractice, maybe that's something they need to look at.
I knew I should have asked you, Ben. I'm so glad that I teed you up first. So the reason that we're talking about this, right, is a former Air National Guard reservist was denied legal reparations for a botched routine back surgery that left him paralyzed. So a Maryland Air National Guard member left paralyzed from a routine back surgery at a military hospital, had no legal recourse because of a 1950 Supreme Court decision called the Ferris Doctrine, which rendered the government free legal accountability for service member injury claims. So basically the thing is here, if you go in for a routine thing and he paralyzes you, the military can go, my bad. I love hearing how you guys talk, like Jake and Ben, the evolution on that question of, hey, I think we should have some strict parameters. I think in the case of medical malpractice, I actually had a friend of mine that was a PJ, he's a doctor now, or almost all the way through med school. So he actually had one of these things. He went on, remember the show Botched? Like the where they fix medical things that you did wrong. He actually had a procedure that was done so badly in the United States military, the Air Force, that he applied to Botched and they took him on. And he was on the show because they were like, who did this? And they were like, yeah, this military surgeon. They were like, this is the worst job that anybody's ever done. Like, they should not be allowed to touch you. So when you start talking about, like, no kidding, medical malpractice, when you go in and, for a rotator cuff repair or, a routine back surgery, you're supposed to go in to have, some compressed disc and some degenerative discs repaired in your back, and you're ended up paralyzed from that. There should be legal recourse. You should be able to hold that person medically and personally accountable. That person that screwed up this person's back surgery, they probably didn't even get freaking punished. They're probably just doing more surgeries right now. There has to be some sort of call for it. Go ahead, Jake.
So I'm going to tell you all the story, man. I got a good one. Okay, so I have a classmate. They're dead. All right, so I can talk about it. And they were the head.
Spoiler alert! I mean, geez, you got to wait till the end. Have you never been on a podcast before? You got to build the suspense, buddy.
I go in to see this dude. He's running the hospital, and he's like, I'm staying at his house at the Senior Bowl. So I'm going to Senior Bowl over in Mobile. I'm driving over back and forth. Right, he's one of my good friends. So, I'm in the hospital the next day. He told me to come to the hospital at noon. So I go to the hospital. My company mate is a urologist in his hospital. We go down and beat that dude up. Like, it was awesome. So he gets a call, and he's all pissed off. And so we go back up to his office, and he, deals with this situation. And I said, what is going on? He's like, man, I got this resident who's in urology who somehow nicked a intestine doing a uterus remove or something like that, right? You would know better than me, Aaron. And so I was like, wait a minute, like, is the uterus near the intestines? He's like, no, it's on the other side of a cavity. And I'm like, so what are you going to do? And he's like, I want to fire her, but I can't. What do you mean you can't fire her? Jake, it ain't that easy. We in the military. I said, so what are you going to do? He said, I'm going to send her back to the end of medical school for a year, and then she's going to have to go back through residency. I was like, what? He's like, that's about as good as I can do. I can get her out of this hospital by sending her back to Fort Eustis for the last year of medical school and make her redo residency. So, just in case anybody's wondering, we are talking about real problems in the military with the medical department. And yes, I saw it with my own two eyes. There is not a lot of recourse. So,
well, and again, I think in the vein of accountability, I think I like this for accountability. I think you are right. There are always going to be people that abuse this system. Somebody, of course, is going to get injured downrange, and they're going to try to sue the military because they're like, well, you put me in that position, and then you were neglectful, and now you owe me for pain and suffering and my PTSD and all this other stuff. I get it. I get that part. But when you look at Afghanistan, when you look at we already talked about the retreat from Afghanistan and the Biden-Harris administration losing 13 Americans at Abbey Gate, not a single person's been fired over that. You look at the assassination attempt, President Trump, the Secret Service chick, she wasn't even going to step down. Like, have we fired anybody? She stepped down to be the sacrificial lamb for that. Do we have any accountability in the government at all? I think from that angle, I am for this. Like, take the Ferris Doctrine, completely gut it, make yourself like, hey, in a well-defined list of things that you can sue the government for. Like if the government, like medical malpractice seems like a home run for me. If a doctor is supposed to be good enough at their job to not injure you and leave you paralyzed, and then they don't live up to that job, you should be able to take their freaking license, right? Now, again, there's a little bit of a gray area here, because then you look back at, let's start at like, I don't know, 2020 to 2024. And then you start looking at what lawsuits would come out of the COVID lockdowns and the vaccine mandates and the vaccine injuries and all this other stuff, and things get really squirrely. I get it. From an accountability standpoint, I'm here for it, because Jake, to your point, it's impossible. Like, I've worked with crappy doctors. I've literally walked out of rooms with doctors and been like, I'm smarter than that guy. I don't know how he got through school, but I'm smarter than this dude. And he doesn't know what he's talking about. And there's no way to fire them and get them out. You just have to work around them. Like we say, by, with, around, and through for a reason, because sometimes that's your only recourse.
Jake didn't like your answer. He left. He said, I'm out of here. I'm done. So let me tell you something. Totally off topic. Totally off topic. I saw a movie yesterday. All right. I saw Blink twice. Good movie. Okay. You guys haven't seen it. Won't spoil anything. Now, I have a problem, though, with this movie. Okay. The problem I have with this movie is that one of the characters was a former Marine. A couple things. Security guard. You guys see this, everybody in the audience, right? You know what I'm talking about. First of all, this former Marine is witnessing things that no Marine would stand for, ever. I'll tell you that much. Second of all, one of the characters kills him at one point. I'm just like, okay, now we've gone too far. Now we've gone absolutely too far. So when you guys see this, just remember what I was saying about, I liked his demeanor. He was very cold, calculating, all those things like that. But just two strikes wrong. First of all, he wouldn't have put up with all this nonsense. Okay. Second of all, one of the characters kills him somehow, and that wouldn't have happened either. So anyway, my 2 cents. Quick aside. Anyone seen the movie? Jump in the chat. Tell us what you think about that. That's what's going on in my mind. You guys started. After a little while, I'm like, all right, I'm done with this topic.
All right, we'll transition into the next topic, guys, and this one is more so for you, Aaron, and Ben and Jake, from the officer side, right? All right, so a third airman dies at Air Force Base in 5 weeks. All right, so the article reports the death of Tech Sergeant Jacob Venegas, who was found dead at Kunsan Air Force Base. I think that's in South Korea. Right. On August 28th, 2024, he was a member of the 8th Maintenance Group. His death marks the third airman death at the base in 5 weeks. 2 other airmen, Senior Airman Sania Jones Small and Airman Basic Kyle Vong, die in July and August, with no foul play suspected in any of the cases. All right, the deaths have prompted base leadership to reinforce support system for airmen. As of right now, the airman's death is under investigation. Tongue twister of the story. So, looking at this from a leadership perspective, Ben, what would you do if you were the commander of this base and you're losing airmen? This is shift 5 now. Like, what steps would you take, and how would you approach this?
One thing I missed, and maybe I just didn't hear it there too, but what were the causes? Is there a common cause for all of it? No. Okay. I mean, so
no. So they didn't state if it was suicide. Like, they didn't say.
I mean, there would be a massive stand down, right? I mean, leadership would be poked in the chest. It'd be endless. I mean, people might be flying to places to talk face to face, have knee-to-knee talks, right? So at a minimum, massive, Zoom calls or whatever, whatever system, not Zoom, but all the different squawk boxes that are out there in the military. But they would examine culture, they would examine hazing, and examine safety, health and safety, like what is going on. So I can tell you there would be probably massive stand downs, and I think for my perspective, I think you gotta get down to, let's say for our line of work, the team chiefs need to go out and see what the hell's going on. That's a big thing, right? And then if we're in the infantry, all the way down the squad leader, fire team leaders, you gotta let the sergeants and corporals, the staff NCO corps do their job in there and make sure officers are having serious discussions, listening to senior enlisted leadership, like what is going on, how is this happening, is this an isolated event? But a lot of the times there's a deeper underlying current in a culture, whether it's a lackadaisical attitude for safety, right? So you're having mishaps, okay? So if there's a trend of mishaps, there are causal factors and contributing factors. The causal factors are said body hit the ground, right? Impacted the ground and killing the person. What are the contributing factors? Okay, this operator didn't sleep for 2 days, was on a bender, or whoever was, packing their chute didn't do it properly, right? Aircraft maintenance wasn't being done properly because so-and-so had all these different issues. That's why we have Human Factors Council to look and see what human factors are involved in creating these contributing factors to mishaps, okay, if there's for safety or towards making bad decisions, towards, suicide, mental health, all those things like that. But there's an overall, overhaul that has to be conducted in really deep conversations, and looks at the causal factors, the contributing factors, the human factors involved, all those things that could lead. And again, I'm just guessing, it's, either whether it's self-inflicted harm, it's a mishap, it's a range issue, something happened on the range, maybe they drank something poisonous, I don't know. So there are all these different things that could happen. Maybe something happened out in town where they got into a fight and someone got killed. But overall leadership, that's what I would do. You have to really get in there, pull everyone in, but especially the frontline leaders. Who are their friends? Where were their friends? Can't tell you how many times I've heard of a team chief stopping crazy behavior, right? Like suicide or homicide or drinkicide, where you're drinking yourself to death and go crash, right? But it's usually those guys, and gals who are going to be right there, knowing that the human factors are off, or knowing, hey, something's wrong with the safety here. Like we don't have a checklist mentality in these high risk units. If you don't have that, you're dead. So that would be my 2 cents on it.
Yeah, I would need facts, man. Like five of your airmen die on base. Like, okay, well, the same thing happened in Tinker, by the way. I think this was last year. There were like 3 or 4 airmen that died within a very short period of time, and the base commander just straight up tried to cover it up. Like their PAO was an active participant in not releasing information on this stuff. They had 3 people die, I want to say within like 6 days or 7 days or something. So my first question is like, of what? Like, okay, so we have autopsies from the other 3 people that have died. Like this is the 5th death. The 3rd death this summer, the 5th in a very short amount of time. What are the other autopsies saying? Like, was this drugs? Was it drinking? Was it, were they accidents? Like the fact that they're being, close hold, the family's already been notified. I can look on task and purpose and I can see next of kin has already been notified. I already understand that this is a thing that we know has happened. So we have to start being transparent about what's going on. Like, do you have a fentanyl problem that is killing your airmen on base? Like, are people doing, like, are we over in Korea? Is there something, is this malicious? Are they being poisoned by bad actors? Like, we have to figure out what's going on first. The fact that there's not anything coming out and there's no statement on any of this at all makes me think that there is something more. And again, it's me being conspiratorially minded. But it makes me think, because you're obscuring things or because you're not being forthcoming with facts, you're just like, oh man, we got all these airmen die, critical 101 days this summer. We got to get everybody in for a motorcycle safety class right away. We're going to do a safety stand down for an afternoon. No flying out.
Maybe the Air Force just sucks and we've just been fooled.
Hang on, Jay. Let me throw some fire your way, Jay.
Yeah.
There's 58 dead people in like 4 years at Fort Hood.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think 3 over there is a big deal, Go try to figure out, is it Fort Cavazos right now? Whatever.
It's Fort Hood. I'm not playing those games. It's Fort Hood.
Yeah. Fort
Hood. It's Fort Hood though. Like it's named Fort Hood for a reason.
Yeah. Like Fort Hood has some hood tendencies because they losing people straight up around the clock, like 2 a month basically.
Right.
So yeah, like they literally have 58 deaths. I read the article. I talked to my dude. He says a trash can fire. All the units suck. No support. Same thing Ben was saying. Like, if you don't care for your people gonna do dumb shit and get killed.
Yeah. That's why, the culture matters so much, just overall. That's why I will tell you this. One time I'm working with a company, and, sometimes leaders get culture. They understand the power of it. Other times, it's funny to me, but as tough and as hardcore as we are in the groups we come from, right? we understand culture and the power of it, right? The psychological power of it to move people, the esprit de corps, the morale, all these things. But sometimes some leaders will think culture is soft and like, you have no idea. How did the 300 Spartans stand where they stood, right? In the movie 300, right? But it's a real life thing, really happened in history because of their culture, right? That made them, they could not back away once their king said, we're doing this, right? So, I mean, culture, I mean, I hate to say it this way, but led to kamikazes, right? I mean, that's like they're you can't get away from that. It's so powerful. It goes beyond flesh, right? So if you're in business out there and you listen to this, remember what you talk about as a leader, what you pay attention to, where you put your feet, what you're interested in. You're building culture. Who you fire, who you hire, how quickly you fire people, right? Or counsel them and coach them. You're creating a culture, for better or for worse, that will impact your entire performance. So that's what I would say for all this. Somewhere, somehow, there is a freaking cultural problem there. And if it is, and that sounds like maybe it's a fentanyl problem, the biggest thing with some of those military drug tests too is they're behind the times for what gets detected and what doesn't. So these fools can be out there, young people can be out there doing stuff and it's out of their system so fast they don't even know, and that stuff will kill you in 10 minutes, 5 minutes. You take the wrong stuff. So especially what the cartels are putting in there these days, it's rough.
And in 2024, it's everywhere. Did you hear about the little acid problem they had at the Naval Academy, Ben?
No, it wouldn't be surprising.
Yeah, they kicked out like 25 people that were popping acid, and they couldn't test them for it, so they had to set up a big sting around it. But yeah, like they popped a bunch of dudes. So like in 2024, and when they were asked about it, they were all like, well, we didn't think it was that big a deal. And I'm like, oh, buddy.
Right.
Yeah, we kind of told you you're not allowed, so that's kind of the deal. That's why we're all mad about it. That's it. Like, I get it. Yeah. When I do stuff that the chain of command says specifically that I shouldn't do, and then they get mad, oftentimes I'll be like, oh, what? Really? I can't believe it. You guys think this is a big deal? You told us not to. I get it. Whatever. Hilarious. Right. All those middies. See you later. Have a good day.
Without a doubt.
All right. So last story, Aaron, can you walk us through the Facebook/Meta story? So recently, Mark Zuckerberg came out stating that the Biden administration approached him and pretty much told him to fucking censor the citizen of this country. I know you probably know about this a lot more than I do, so if you don't mind.
Here we go. So I'm going to take you back to, the time was the 2020s, right? The early 2020s. So basically what happened is this all kind of blew up over the Hunter Biden laptop thing. Basically what happened, and we're going to Tarantino it, right? And this whole thing, the through line here is Mark Zuckerberg is gradually getting more and more red-pilled as he goes, which is a hilarious thing to think about, right? You think that these people that know, he knows what the Facebook algorithm is. He knows how these things are made. You would assume that these people, are doing these things because they just don't know things. To watch in real time Mark Zuckerberg get more and more based has been hilarious, right? So anyway, that's an aside. So when the Hunter Biden laptop story initially broke, you'll remember it was all Russian disinformation, right? So everybody said that the information contained on Hunter Biden's laptop that we know now is completely and totally accurate. It was true. He left his laptop at a computer repair shop. He was high as shit on crack and doing a bunch of other felonious duties, sex trafficking and doing a whole bunch of stuff, right? Like flying prostitutes nationwide and to other countries. So just being a felon, and he forgot that he left this laptop there. Well, the FBI went to Facebook and they warned Mark Zuckerberg directly, and they said, hey, here's the deal. There's this story coming out. We think it's Russian disinformation. We just really want you to pay attention to it. Make sure that it doesn't get out there. There's an election that's going on. And, we got a lot of stuff that's going on here. And this was, by the way, right before the election. So, we're talking weeks. This is like the October surprise sort of area. So basically what happened is that open dialogue between the federal government and Facebook to restrict Americans' First Amendment rights. You couldn't even share the story in your DMs of the Hunter Biden laptop. So they went through this entire thing. And remember, this is like years old, so there's a lot of nuance here. But Jen Psaki, the White House spokesperson, before the worst spokesperson of all time, Karine Jean-Pierre, who I like to call Cringe Jean-Pierre because she's awful. Basically, Jen Psaki said straight up, yeah, we're working with big tech to make sure that misinformation and disinformation like this doesn't get out to the American public and sway the election. She said it openly from the podium of what it is that they did as this stuff was breaking. Well, now it turns out Mark Zuckerberg says not only did the FBI approach them to ask them. And by the way, like when people were like, oh, well, Facebook is a private company, they can do whatever it is that they want. That is not true in a First Amendment sense. In the USC Code 230, the First Amendment covers this stuff directly about what it is that you can say as a platform versus a publisher, or misinformation, disinformation, all this other stuff. The bottom line is that Mark Zuckerberg admitted that it opened up this Pandora's box of, hey, here's this story. But then they started going whole hog. They were like, well, here's this other story. Here's some conservative accounts we want turned off. Here's this other thing. Mark Zuckerberg went even further. When he went on Joe Rogan in 2023, the world blew up because he basically said, yeah, the federal government they can't restrict speech, but they can come to a private organization and the federal government can go, hey, Facebook, listen, we really like what you're doing. We want you to keep doing what you're doing because there's a lot of money involved. And it would be really, really terrible if, if the SEC started looking into Facebook. Right? It'd be really bad if we started doing investigations, right? We wouldn't want to turn anything up. Okay, well, it would be really bad if we did that. We're not going to. Oh, by the way, there's this Hunter Biden laptop story we want you to kill. Remember, we're not going to look into the SEC. You're doing what you need you to do. But there's this Hunter Biden story that's bad, right? So Mark Zuckerberg has completely admitted that he colluded with the United States government, the Biden-Harris campaign, to censor the First Amendment right of American citizens via Facebook and big tech. He said unequivocally that they had a back chat. He has all the text messages. He has backroom chats. He has communications between people acting in their official roles as the United States government telling Facebook to censor free and fair speech in America. That is the biggest story that nobody is talking about right now. It just got swept right under the rug. It was like, oh yeah, Zuckerberg came out and admitted that the United States government censored American citizens and took away their First Amendment rights and swung the election. 18% of people said that they would have voted for Trump and not Biden had they known that the Hunter Biden laptop was true and the things inside of that were true. Because it corroborated a whole bunch of things which we found to be true. Just about 2 weeks ago, mainstream media was actually forced to admit that the Bidens have made $25 million from China and Ukraine over the course of the last 10 or 15 years. Just straight, and like we, the conspiracy right side of the aisle folks have been talking about this, I don't know, for a decade. Ever since 2014, we've been talking about Ukraine and money laundering and how the Bidens were getting paid and all this other stuff. Well, they just admitted it, $25 million to the Biden crime family by way and by corroboration of the Hunter Biden laptop story, which Mark Zuckerberg knowingly suppressed at the direction and behind the gun of the government. Because again, this all comes down to force. The government threatened Mark Zuckerberg, a private organization and a private citizen that had a public company, to do their bidding, and Mark Zuckerberg caved to that, and he admitted so much this week.
Aaron, I cannot stop laughing. I'm just, I got to say something, man. Can someone go on Google and verify if Marion Barry, the former mayor of D.C., crack smoker, is Hunter Biden's godfather? I want to know.
You know what? I got it. I'll Google that.
I think Marion Barry is his godfather. Because that's why I'm laughing so hard. I'm over here, and I just distinctly remember they had him doing crack with the prostitute in the hotel on video. And his only response was, "Damn that! Damn her!" And I'm like, shit, they in the same party. Got to be his godfather, right?
Get in the
I'm
water,
over here
baby.
dying, man. That might have been one of the best videos ever, Aaron. Marion Barry getting caught smoking crack on TV and then getting reelected as the mayor because it's D.C., baby. It's D.C.
D.C.
So I don't know if I could verify that it's actually his godfather. However, the New York Post reported in 2021 that Hunter Biden boasted that he smoked crack with late D.C. Mayor Marion Barry. During an 8-minute, 15-second audio clip, President Biden's son and another man were debating whether slain civil rights icons Martin Luther King Jr. and Mohandas Gandhi ever used cocaine when Barry's name came up. Marion Barry, the mayor from D.C., did. You know what? I actually smoked crack with Marion Barry. I swear to fucking God, said Hunter Biden. And I love that.
Listen, telling y'all I'm a Jedi, baby. It just come in my head. I see answers.
I had no idea. That's a wild news story.
Hey, out in the chat. Hey, out in the chat, everybody, call your friends. It's about to get live now. So we're about to start rolling. We're just getting warmed up now. Things are breaking open. I'm about to turn my camera off.
Hey, warning signs are blinking. Ben's like, I gotta go. Listen, guys, I got a heart out.
Listen, I'm sorry. I just want to throw the truth down.
Yeah.
my spidey senses was going off. I said them too. They in
Right.
bed together.
Right. Right. I love the moral equivocation here. Like, oh, this is an old story. No, it's actually a confirmation of one of the largest missteps of the United States government. If you're an American citizen and you're somehow finding a way to be morally equivalent on this issue, on this First Amendment issue, because you don't like somebody else that's running for government, you're a fucking dork. I don't know how to say it other than that. If you like, I love political discourse. Like, you look and you're like, hey, the government colluded with big tech censorship. There's only one answer to that, and that's disgusting. Fire everybody that had a hand in it. Get them out of their position. We've got to rid these people from government. If your answer to this issue is, oh well, him and Donald could be cellmates, I mean, maybe you're just a bad person. You know, maybe you're just a person that doesn't understand how things can be right and or wrong, and your morally equivalent lukewarm self should be spit out of someone's mouth. Maybe that's what it should be. But that's just my opinion. That was a biblical quote. It sounds dirty, but it's not. It's about being lukewarm and being morally equivalent.
All right, so I got one last one for you guys before we punch out of here, and this is an actual question, so I'll just say that you guys can take it wherever you want. All right, so I was on a call with a young man today, and he asked me this question, and he was like, hey, I'm a 25-year-old young man wanting to go become a Green Beret, but he has HIV. He's HIV positive, and he wants to know, as a teammate, how I would feel serving next to him. And it's one of those things, like, you try to be political because you don't want to crush anybody's dreams. But at the end of the day, I'm like, look, man, like, I wouldn't be comfortable at all. If we're down range slinging lead and you get injured and I'm the closest to you, I'm probably gonna fucking, and it sound fucked up the way I said it to him. I was like, dude, I'm probably gonna let you fucking bleed out because I don't want that shit in my system. You know what I mean? And then I stopped. I was like, oh, fuck, I probably should not have said that to this young man. But I spoke with him some more, and I told him, hey, I don't know what the military policies are right now to do his work and do the research. But if you guys were presented with that question, how would you answer it? We'll go to Ben first. We'll save Jake for last.
All right. I mean, I think I got the same. I think I've got the same answer, right? Total compassion, totally understand. That's a hard thing that you've got that, you know. I mean, I don't have any words to say for that. That's really hard. And I hope to God that, you know, the young man you were talking to is healthy and doing well. I mean, I know there are a lot of ways to still live a really good life like that. But I think in the military, the big thing is that, you know, like, there are people who have allergies. You have allergies. You can't do what I did. You can't do what these guys did, just because they're going to put you in stuff that you're going to have a really, really rough time. You don't know what you're going to eat, where you're going to eat it. So, you know, having allergies that way. But I never really thought of myself as like all that lucky. And I looked at like how many things that I don't have that allowed me to do what I do in the survival situations I was in, and the hard, you know, rough living that we do. So I think it's the same type of thing, because for good order and discipline, but also for safety for everybody else. And as Jay's saying, that if you get wounded out there, or if you just get injured and get cut, you know, you're going to create a real dilemma for other people, because there's something infectious within your system, you know. And again, not any fault of your own. It's not any judgment or anything. It's just we have to look at the good of the team, right? And so if we look at things like, honestly, like, you know, even like decision making for moral decision making, right? You know, ethical and moral decision making. Just going to morality, right? Moral decision making. There is one way to look at that. Why is this good? Because it's good for the larger group, and then within that larger group of the military and the operational units, that's probably what's the best, right? We'd be betraying the other people within the unit if we start allowing people in that inherently, if you help them, if they're wounded, because you're supposed to in your duty, that you then contract some disease. You know, it's not. That's just my take on it. I think the rules are there for a reason, and these rules in this case are appropriate and are the right ones to have, because for the good of the group, we can't just say, okay, well, in order to fulfill this person's dreams, we have to put other people in jeopardy. You know, it's just not the way it works, you know. So
Yeah, this issue, like, it's tough, man. Like, so on, one side of me is like, hey, there's entrance standards for a reason. We have these standards, for a reason. You're gonna have, like, hey, it sucks. Like, I'm sorry that you have this condition, which you may have gotten through, completely, no fault of your own. I don't know how it could have been a blood transfusion, could have been person to person contact, whatever. Okay, I don't know. I will tell you, as a guy that's treated infectious disease patients. Like, I've treated people with very infectious diseases, to include HIV, to include all kinds of hepatitis, all kinds of bloodborne and airborne pathogens, and all kinds of other stuff. I will tell you, it does weigh on your head as a medic. There's never been a time. I'm totally willing, when I work at hospitals, notoriously, PJs will be like, hey, we got a really hard stick. It's this HIV patient. Nobody upstairs wants to touch him. Do you guys want to? We're like, yeah, because we do dangerous stuff all the time. But it's because we're protected and we have gloves on, and we have, like, I am always aware of those protocols, and I know what kind of antiviral protocols you have to take. The HIV research lane has come so long. Like, there's medicine that you can, like, again, me trying not to be cynical here. The only problem with HIV is if you have enough money. If you have enough money, you're apparently fine. Magic Johnson has been living his best life for 40 years since we found out that guy has HIV. I mean, it's full-blown AIDS. The guy, you know what I mean? We have medicines now that can make it non-transferable, that can blunt the actual, like, effect of HIV and stops it from getting into full-blown AIDS. And it can be one of these things where you essentially have, like, I don't know what percentage of the American population right now has genital herpes, but it's a lot. And a lot of them live day to day with genital herpes. And like, it's one of those things where people never have outbreaks. They never have issues with it. It's just a thing that they have, that they contracted through no fault of their own. And, some people are surprised to even figure out that they have it. Right. All that being said, I will say it does put a burden on the medical system, the people that are treating you, your teammates. You have to be open and honest with them about it. People aren't going to feel the same about your thing as we do, about your symptoms and your syndrome as we do, because we have the benefit of 80 or 90 years combined experience between us. We have seen a lot of things. So of course we're going to sit here and go, well, the entrance standard is the entrance standard, but you guys have to understand that puts a big burden on your team. It puts a big burden on your relationships. It puts a big burden on everybody that's going to have to, potentially treat you down the line. And it's one of those things that until we find a way to make it completely non-transferable and to where I can't get sick from treating you, it's going to be a thing that the military probably is not going to allow. And it sucks because, again, I don't know the backstory, but that's what it is.
Jay, I got a call just like that yesterday. Little different context. Kid got a DUI. He want to go fly planes in the Navy. Bro, you ain't going to fly planes in the Navy with a DUI. Okay, it's not going to happen. You got DUI, you're not going in. Okay, but in that situation, I think back to, man, obstacle course, doing IV sticks on your swim buddy, every other obstacle, being covered in blood from your elbows down, and then you got to a dock station and they were like sticking your feet or your neck, and everybody's covered in blood, and I'm like, nah, that's not cool. It wasn't cool to me then. Like, you're on obstacles covered in blood. Like, all the obstacles have blood on them. And now I gotta sit there and dude's bleeding out, and I got a pack wound, I ain't got no gloves on. Am I gonna stop in the middle of all this shit and put all my protective PPE on so that I can pack his wound? I know y'all ain't gonna like this shit, but yeah. I'm a security around that shit and keep it moving.
Dude, I am so, there are some things, everybody has their isms, right? Like, everybody has their isms on things. And my ism with medical stuff is, like, I watched this pretty recently. I watched an American stick another American with an IV and they didn't have gloves on. And they start, like, doing stuff, and I jumped all the way into their ass. I was like, hey, what are you doing, man? Like, wear your gloves. You don't, like, this isn't combat. This person's not dying. This is a training event. You need to put your gloves on. You need to clean the site. You need to make sure everything's sterile. It's never going to be sterile, but it should be clean. But I'm like that with pretty much everything, because I've been in the same scenario as you have, Jake. I've been, doing stuff in the real world. Do I have time to put on gloves? No. You just have to hope that person is an American. They've been tested and they're not passing anybody. I'll tell you what, any partner force that I've ever worked with, if I'm treating you, I'm putting gloves on beforehand because of that potential to pass, these diseases that can ruin your life. I looked at the kid that, they're not a kid. They're a good medic. They were doing a good job. And I just looked at him. I was like, hey man, you I would also hope that this Army National Guard soldier doesn't have some sort of communicable disease that they're not telling you about, right? But man, I would hate for that to ruin my family's life. I would hate for that to impact my 6-month-old son. I'd hate for that to impact my things that I have going on. So I'm going to take a second, put the gloves on because I need him to. So all that, and when you put that kind of to the reverse, do you expect some medic to treat you when you're like, oh, by the way, I have HIV. It could possibly kill you. It's been doing pretty well for me, but it could kill you anyway. Like you have to look at it from that angle, and it sucks, but it's like the DUI thing. It's a standard, and it's an entrance standard for a reason, and it just is what it is.
Yeah, I appreciate the feedback there.
Hey Jay, we were gonna take all this money from this live, and we're gonna buy you better internet.
Dude, I don't know what it is. It ain't the internet, man.
You were super laggy.
As Aaron started screen sharing, as soon as you started screen sharing, it threw everything off. I don't know why it does.
Aaron's fault.
I
own it. Yeah, sorry, man. Yeah,
I'm just really quiet, so everybody's really happy that I'm not very loud.
How's the chat? How's everybody doing in the chat? How's the chat going?
Yeah, chat's great.
There's one question in here I got to answer. So, Lucky
My
Dollar
chat's
Sign
stopped.
M, Real Blood. It was blood from the whole team was out there doing medical training on the obstacle course. A whole bunch of platoons were out there, and I mean, we just ran the obstacle course. Maybe we ran the obstacle course like 5 times, and every other obstacle. But like my arms were purple for 3 weeks afterwards, because everybody's jacked up, and there was real blood on all the obstacles. The blood was there for the next month because no one went over and cleaned the obstacle course. There's all wood obstacles. It just was what it was, man. That was late 90s. That shit was real. Dirty ass obstacle course. I mean, there was a nail on the obstacle course. If you didn't watch out for it, it would fucking poke a hole in you every time. So, don't ask me why no one ever went over there with a hammer and fixed the nail, but I know this. I knew there was a nail, and I just went on the other side of it.
That's awesome. All right, what's everybody doing this weekend? Anything crazy? I didn't get the part, so if anybody wants me to show up and play, Black Bull or whatever that dude is, let me know. I'm fucking there.
Still fixing this house, baby. We're gonna get this game worked out for everybody on the War Room podcast. Hopefully on my Discord here next. I'll have it worked out. I got a red box over here that got a game dial, but the microphone ain't ran through the red box. So hopefully my man 2K will get me straight, man. Hey Ben Pappas, how many flaming hot dates do you have today alone? Today alone, Dan, as a resident kind of dude on the fringes, what's the date count today, Ben?
You mean none today.
Nice.
Ben is trying to use the tried and true special operations tactic: deny, make counter accusations. Nobody believes that. Put it in the chat if you believe that Ben really didn't have 5 dates
Jake, man, get me in trouble.
And a coffee.
Lie, deny, counter accuse, establish rapport, hope for the best. That's all you can do.
That's right. I'm focusing on my work. I'm focusing on work and on hanging out with actually my sons. My oldest has got his birthday today, hanging out here in LA with him in Venice, and then gonna head out for a bit, and then go down to San Diego to see my other son down there. So I'm really excited about that. And then I got a lot of crazy travel coming up. I'm flying out on Saturday overseas, and then I'll be back, and then going to another place overseas, then coming back, and then LA again. So I am madness for the next couple of weeks, man. But it's all good. I got a good gig. I was telling Jake about it. I'm excited. I'm going to be speaking for Pepsi, doing an inspirational talk with them for about an hour or so. So that's really exciting. That'll be a good one for sure. And so, I'm just excited to get a lot of good work coming out and a lot of good ways to help people and some, inspire some people to do better and teams do better. And so it's all good. Living my purpose, man. It's good.
Man, God, I'm excited for the Browns to open their season against the Dallas Cowboys. So that's happening. Football starts on Thursday. So I am a football guy. I love watching football. Go Browns. And then I'll just be paying attention to this puppy, man. Just trying to get this puppy house broken and make sure that she's doing the right stuff and train with her. And there we go.
Hey, Aaron, I want to send a shout out to your foot that's going to land in a pile of shit at 2
I
in
already
the
did it.
morning.
I did it at 3 a.m. That was 2 days ago,
3
dude.
a.m.,
Dude,
baby!
oh, dude, she's not.
That's
So
puppy love.
it is. I just get up. I get up at the same time that I get up the same time my son does. Like he'll just kind of like wake up for food in the middle of the night, and I'm like, okay, just walk down, take the puppy out. So I take her out. And I'm like, hey, come on. So I walk to the end of my turf. So the end of my turf is like out my back door. If you just walk straight, you can walk right to the end of my backyard. So I walked that way, and I called her, and I was just like, hey, come on. But it's 3 a.m. It's like 80 degrees here in Vegas. It's gorgeous. The stars are out. I'm walking, my backyard. Wasn't really paying attention. I walk out. I turn around after I get to the end of my yard, and Mist is right there. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I didn't see her. We walk back, and she pees. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah, okay, tight. So she walked out, whatever. Well, she had taken a poop on the way, and I was not aware of that. It was like the quickest poop. And no kidding, 2 steps right and I knew right away. The second that I touched it, I was just like, yep, I just stepped in a big pile of dog shit. And now I got to clean that up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And that's what happened. So thanks. And fuck you for being mean to me. You're very mean.
I just, I got a text, Jake. I got a text, and it's, how is my podcast going? And so, thanks, Jake. Thanks for highlighting me.
Listen, Ben, I'm going to tell you, the best part of being in special operations, you always feel like you're the lowest man on the totem pole, and you're always striving to beat the best man.
Yeah.
Believe me, Ben, we are all trying to shoot fucking holes in you every day.
You're the target of the podcast. Congratulations, Ben. We're just trying to tear you down. You're too good looking. You're too successful.
I'm trying to get to your level, my guy.
Right.
That's all I'm trying to tell you.
I can't raise to that level, so I got to drag you in the mud. I just got to drag you down in this crab pot so we can just get you down here.
It was almost as if on cue, Jake's asking me, how many dates you going on? It was like on cue. How's it going? And
those 40 or 50 of them are secretly in the chat. They secretly watching. They got, bro. You got followers, bro. I love it, man.
I don't
Keep
know,
being
man.
popular, Ben. I told you, I'm carrying your bag. When you become an A-list celebrity, you doing $1 million movies. I'm gonna be carrying your bag, acting like your bodyguard. But really, I'm just gonna hand you the gun if anything goes down.
Shit, man. That sounds good. That sounds like a plan. But Jake's really the puppet master behind everything. So he's, Jake's steering many things. Jake is like, the puppet master of it all. So he's, the mastermind.
That is. Jay, close it up for us, brother.
We gotta wait 10 minutes for him
All
to
right,
come on.
chat. Oh, man. All right, chat. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Greenberg Chronicle crew and also the War Room crew. I appreciate you guys. We're thinking about starting up a community. Let us know in the chat if you want us to do that. Our behind the scene guy, Carlos, wanted me to ask you guys. I appreciate you guys spending your Wednesday with us, an hour plus on here. We appreciate you guys. It's always good to have loyal fans, and you guys are definitely that, and we appreciate you guys. Fellas, have a good weekend. I appreciate you guys. Back to Daddy Daycare for me.
Yeah. Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everybody. Train hard.
Love y'all.